Hello everyone. So if you have played Shadow of Tomb Raider, you may have encountered this oil puzzle where this oil is filled into this tank and then along this pathway oil flows down along this small paths that you have seen. Based on the position that you place this middle section, you can rewrite it. The direction of the oil flow can be changed. So this is the Shadow of Tomb Raider, and we are going to attempt implementing this same mechanism in Unreal Engine. So yeah, after oil flow is, we can set fire to the oil. So along the oil path, things will set on fire like that. Okay, so this is the mechanism that we are going to implement today. And before we get started, let me remind you that you can download the project files of this project and all other thousands of projects I have done in my channel from the Patreon page. Once you become a member, you can access everything without any limits. So feel free to check it out. I'll leave the link in description below. And this episode is sponsored by this generous patron. Thank you very much for your support. Okay, so here is the platform that I'm going to use to simulate or replicate that oil puzzle flow. So here these are just static measures. This one is a separate one, you can see like this, and these are separate measures, so you can rotate them independently. This one too. Alright, so now first thing is here, let's create a new blueprint, and after blueprint let's call it pp oil flow spline. Well, not necessary to call oil, let's call it spline flow. Okay, let me open it, and here I'll add a spline. This like this by default. Okay, let me give it some color so we can easily see that in the editor, and let me place it here. Okay, okay, now to match this location, here let me place it like this and extend the end to match the end. And let me switch to the top view so that we can easily see top view and light mode. Yeah, here is the oil flow, and let's duplicate this because there are three paths that oil flow can go, so I'll add three of them. And for each of these paths that the oil flow can take afterwards, we would need, let's create three more oil flows. So first let's rename this. Well, no need to rename, name shouldn't matter here. Press Alt so you can drag and duplicate. Now we need to match the path. Again, go back to top view. Yeah, now you can disable snapping. That would make things easier for me. So what I'm doing is keep Alt pressed and drag a line so that I can drag from a spline point so that I can duplicate this spline point along the path. I'll do it off the recording. Alright, so I added all the spline points required for the oil flows starting from here. This is one, and this is another one, and this is the next one. Okay, now let's go to perspective mode. So here we have our flows. You can see. Now it's time to implement the oil flow along the spline. Alright, so to do that, here, let's go to event graph. I don't need tick or anything. Let's add a custom event. And let's call it start flow. And here I'll add a variable, input variable, parameter, flow direction. This could be forward or backward. So let's do it like this: direction FW BW. So it's more clear. Okay, now, well, maybe let's not complicate things. Let's just assume we are always flowing forward. So that makes things simpler. Maybe later on we can implement backward flowing too. So now what I want to do is here, in order to implement flow, let's add a variable, flow distance. This should be a float. Let's say current flow distance. So this would define at what point along this spline the oil flow is happening right now. So by default it should be 0. If we are flowing backward, maybe it should be similar to the length of the spline, but let's implement forwards flowing first and then flow step. How large is the step of a flow from first point to the next point? How long? How much is the length? So let's say maybe 10. We can customize this according to what we need. And then from the spline, so in order to, before we attempt to flow, we need to check if we have the minimum length. So get spline length, and we need to check if this is larger than current flow distance plus flow step. Okay, right? We can make them instance editable, so you can customize these things per instance if required. So let's add a branch. If this is true, that means we can flow. There is enough room for the oil flow to happen. Right. Now, let's first implement this with drawing some debug line. So here, let's go debug line. We can use line color maybe blue. That could work. and line start would be, yeah, again, get location at distance along spline, and the distance is current flow distance. That should be the start, line start. And I'll choose world space. Similarly, endpoint would be line, the current flow distance plus flow step. That's the endpoint. Color is this. Duration. The 0 means forever. I'll maybe make like but thickness, I don't know, 10. Okay, so this is only one step. So we need to continue this. To do that, I'll again set the current flow distance with the result of this. This would be the next distance that we need to draw our flow. So current flow distance plus flow step. And then we can the reroute node and come back here. So what this does is we are checking for the next point. So here we can have a delay so that the flow doesn't happen all at once. I'll promote this to a variable flow speed and I'll choose 0.5. Okay, I think that's all we need for now for testing. Here in the begin play, oh, this should be start flow. Let's call start flow. Compile. Okay. Now I'll choose the I'll choose this simulate option. So now here you can see the oil flow is happening. Okay, so it's happening, but let's say that looks correct. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's say I want to start the oil flow from here, and only after we reach this point, this flow should start. Let's say we want to do that. So before that, maybe let's make the oil decal. No, we can do it later. Okay, so now here let's add the variable auto start. Okay, and it should be a boolean. If auto start is true, we can start the flow. By default, I'll leave it false, and I'll mark it as true for this initial 3 spline flows. Start. Okay, so now if I play, I see the flow happening for those 3, but not for any of the other flows. Okay, now how do we implement continuity? For that, yeah, let's add another function. called on end reached. And here at the end, let's call on end reached. Okay, so now after we reach in the end, we need to find out next oil flow that we need to start. Okay, so to do that, let's get all actors of class, and here I'll choose the class BP spline flow, and I'll add, this is also the spline flow class and the same class we're accessing here. So I'll add another boolean variable, flow started, and this should not be a instance editable variable. This we should mark it as true at the time we start the oil flow, whatever the liquid flow. So on end reached, we can run a for each loop, and we can check if the flow already started. Get flow started. If it is false, that means this is a candidate to start a new flow. Now here we can get start in position, but we need to get the spline point. Get spline and get location at distance along spline world, and we can check if this is close enough to the end point of this spline flow object. That means when the spline flow reach this point, we need to check for the other spline point if the starting point is close enough for the endpoint of this flow. If that is yes, we can start the flow. So we can get the current location like this, current flow distance. Oh, wait a second. There might be an issue where this does not reach the end, the flow does not reach the exact end, because we have this gap 2, flow step 2. So I'll use spline length for this. Okay. Now distance. And we can check this. If this is less than, let's add a variable minimum start threshold. Maybe not threshold. Minimum start distance. Minimum spread distance. Okay, that sounds like a good name. That's a 10. And if yes, we can start this. Start flow. but this should be true. Okay. Okay, now let's see if this works. In the end, it didn't. Okay, let's test with only one. I'll mark other two as auto start. I'll set it to false. And then here, let's add a print so we can get an idea how large the gap is. Maybe I'll set it to 20. Yeah, it's 150. Okay, that's a lot. And also, why did we check against only one spline? There should be multiple. And also we can check the actual distance. Yeah, it's like from here to here, it's only around 7 units. So why did we get 150? Oh, well, actually, I should have used false here, not true. Because if it is already started, then we shouldn't check. But if it is not, we should check. And also, in our case, there is only one floor that is already started, which is the one that we have here. That we already start now, it should work. But I think it might start all three of them. Yeah, all two, which is not correct. That means we have to reduce this number. Minimum spread distance, maybe like 10. That might work. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now if I mark this other two also to auto start, it should start from there and spread. Start these three. Nice. Well, it's working. No need to check anymore. Now the next step is adding something that looks like an actual oil flow. So, and also we need to work on the logic where if we rotate this, how to detect paths as well. But before that, let's make it look good, a little bit good. So for that, I have already created this material, which is an oil surface. Let me show you how it looks. Let me add a decal here. So this is too big. So it's just a decal, nothing more. And here is the material. You can see when you look at it from angle where the light reflections are, you can see it looks like a bit of a oil surface. So this is the material, and it's a decal, so you can't see the preview here. But we created this in this tutorial series, this Unreal Oil flow, which I did a couple years ago. You can refer to this tutorial series if you want to see how this material is created. But feel free to use anything that works. Now here, instead of this debug line, we are going to spawn a decal. So to do that, we are going to use spawn. Let me disconnect this for now. Spawn decal at location. This aside, and decal size. First we need to select the decal material. So I'm going to choose my oil path material. Let's promote this to a variable, decal material. By default that would be selected, and the decal size, promote to variable. I'll make it instance editable. If you want, you can change that too. Let's use something like 10, 10, 20. And this is the location. This current location on the spline. And the rotation, since this is a decal, this should be facing downward. So minus 90 here. And for the yaw, we can calculate yaw like this. Find look at rotation. So the rotation to the next point in front of the in forward direction of the spline. So if I break this, now if I split this, we can access yaw, and only yaw matters here. And in this spline, in this decal, I'll set padding for 0.5 seconds. Okay. Alright, now let's see how it looks. We get the flow, and you see it already shows some artifacts here. That's because this is somewhat like a straight line, so maybe we need to consider reducing the length. So here is the final demonstration, but we will do a couple more episodes to implement the interactivity of these systems later on. But for now, I'm gonna stop this episode right here, and here I added an additional path into this section and this section as well. And also, since there is a hole, I stopped the path from here too. Okay, so if I play now, I modified the oil material a bit too, so we can see it more clearly. So here you can see oil flow coming here, and let's continue to the next part like this. So just like this it goes. So yeah, let's wait a second so that we can see where it is spread to this section as well. But it is working because it's the same logic as we have here. Yeah. Oh, I think I enabled the auto start here, so you already see the flow here. So no problem. But yeah, that's what we are going to. This is where we are going to stop today. So thanks for watching. As always, updated project files will be available for download here in the Patreon page. Link would be in the description below. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments. See you in another episode. Goodbye.